Welcome back. California getting yet another hard lesson in economics. The state implemented a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers in April. That was April of 2024. A little over 1 year later, it's estimated that the state has hemorrhaged, get this, 18,000 jobs. The complete opposite of the employment trends across the rest of the country. And I said this before COVID, when they were advocating for $15 minimum wage, and then during COVID, when wages did go up because we saw such massive inflation, that if the price of your Big Mac meal, and that's what an average person can buy for lunch, is $15, but they're making $15 an hour, then you sort of defeat the purpose of the higher wage. California took it to the next level, to the point where businesses then couldn't be competitive and they had to lay people off. Lou.
Yeah, I mean, you said it in your intro, a hard lesson in economics. We knew what was going to happen, and yet they willfully went forward. This is a math problem. It's a math equation that can be easily solved before you put into place a really bad policy. Beyond having to lay people off, businesses leave and flee states that require higher minimum wages. We need to, remember, it's a minimum wage. It's not supposed to be a living wage, and I think those are the distinctions. We need to provide a pathway, training, opportunities to get people from those jobs into the next level where it is higher wages, not force the bottom up and force businesses to bear the brunt of it because they can't.
Yeah, and yesterday we talked about In-N-Out Burger not wanting to stay in California or its headquarters.
And, you know, you've seen so much business move to the south, to Texas. You've seen Florida take off, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. All of these states have lower costs of labor, and they're very popular with employers, and there's a good reason for it. I just see this trend continuing and not going away.
Well, the minimum wage crowd has this weird habit of always wanting to use, like, the stick of the minimum wage to bring people's pay up. And they always seem to be the least cognizant people that there are other ways to get that work done if you back a business into a corner. It's like we talk about AI every day. We talk about technology every day. They refuse to accept that if you price out businesses from their workers, businesses will hire technology. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. Like some of these, there may be some restaurant closures in California, but actually what they're doing is we see this everywhere. It's kiosks. So like what you've done with you can raise a minimum wage and put people out of work, or you can support pro-growth policies and give businesses an incentive that's sustainable to hire new workers and train them up. But the left loves coercion more than they love the outcome they're seeking, which is a better life for workers.
And let me tell you something, now that I have an opportunity. I get very annoyed at the kiosks because sometimes they don't work and you still need a human to fix them, but there's only one human and there's 50 kiosks or 50 self-checkouts. You still need a human being there. And this brings us back to the issue we were talking about AI with Charles Payne, what it can do for your business, how much more efficient it can make you, how it can get rid of jobs as well and save you money. But at the same time, you just cannot replace humans, even in the most simple ways.
That's exactly right. And imagine the worker who goes to her boss and says, pay me more or I'm going to pass a law, instead of saying, I want to work harder, I want to learn more, I want to elevate my contributions to this company, and then pay me more as a result. The truth is, Lou, that the average wage in America is about $32 an hour. All the folks who are earning money average that out. It's about $32 an hour. Why? Because they started off, as we all do, growing up, with a fast food job for a couple months. They learn those skills and they move on up.
I'm not sure if Kamala actually did or didn't.
Well, President Trump certainly worked for a few hours.
Yeah.
And that'd be the smallest of her lies, was the McDonald's one.
Right.
You know.
But you know, the kiosk not working is a pain. I agree with you. But actually, the bigger problem for Democrats who push this is the kiosks do work.
Yeah.
They work really well. And it's not just kiosks.
Correct.
It's in an Amazon warehouse. It's robots that can move things.
1 million robots now.
Like it is, you know, people like to complain that the technologists are putting humans out of work, but there's nobody who's better at putting humans out of work than the humans in government. You got it. That's exactly
That's right.
Well, look, these kiosks have been around for years. I mean, it was almost 10 years ago I was in Seoul, South Korea, and every fast food restaurant had kiosks. They were replacing the workers a decade ago. So this is a willful decision in the United States to keep employing people over technology. It's not technology's fault. If you lose your job, it's not to AI, it's because you don't know how to use AI. It's our role to teach people how to use the new tools of technology.
But it's also the government's job to stay out of it. The government shouldn't be forcing us to make that decision. When I walk into a McDonald's or a BJ's or a Walmart, I think about my mom, who raised me and my sister when she was a cashier along with my dad. she wouldn't have had that job. She wouldn't have been able to support us as a family. And so that's a decision folks have to make. If the free market's going to make that decision of its own volition, so be it. But Zohran Mamdani needs to keep his grimy paws off of that decision for businesses to make independently.
I'll second that. And I'll also talk about minimum wage generally, where I started the conversation, which is that under Joe Biden, when inflation spiked up to over 9%, real wages actually went down, even though minimum wage came up and most people were seemingly on the top line of their paycheck making more. The cost of living had gotten so expensive that they actually were losing money on the transaction. If I had my choice, I would have just left everything the way it was.
You know, we're giving Democrats a lot of grief for this, but the latest guy to sponsor an increase in the federal minimum wage was a Republican, Josh Hawley, actually. So there's a strain.
Dagan's favorite.
I know I'm sort of channeling a little Dagan here, but there's sort of this, there's a strain of economic thinking that runs through both parties that wants to get government more involved in this decision making. And you're going to, it doesn't matter if a Republican or a Democrat introduces it, you're going to get the same result. It's a nonpartisan economic issue. It comes down to money and the decisions that businesses have to make.
That's right.